Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be ranking every Laika film. I am very excited because if you know that Laika is my favorite animation studio, my favorite movie studio, my favorite film studio. So I'm very excited today to finally be ranking every single Laika film. The reason why I am deciding to do it now is because I just recently flew all the way to Seattle to go to the Laika exhibition that they had at the Pop Museum in Seattle. So that is the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle. So they had a whole Laika exhibition there, and I literally flew to Seattle just for that, just to see this exhibit, and it was amazing. I did love it. I will do probably a full in-depth video about that exhibit. If you do want to see it, please do let me know down below, because I would love to do a more in-depth review and what you can expect going there. They are only open through, I think, the end of August, if I'm not mistaken, maybe mid-August. So if you do want to see that video from me, please let me know soon so I can make it before they close that exhibit. But without further ado, let's just get into ranking the films. I've also decided to do this because I have rewatched all of the films recently. I can have a better judgment when comparing them to each other rather than, just stagnantly when I watch them, because, the last time I really watched ParaNorman was back when it came out. So I decided to watch them, kind of one after the other, just consecutive days, so that I can compare them to each other better rather than watching them as an independent film. Laika is very unique and creative, and if you do not know, they use stop motion in their films, which is an extremely difficult technique that I really do not think is appreciated enough, and I really want to bring more recognition and appreciation to that medium, since it's not used very often anymore, and CGI and even AI and stuff now is becoming very prominent and taking over very quickly. So I just love that Laika does use stop motion still, and that they have the funds to do it, since they are backed by Nike. So they have the funds to continue making these movies, even if they do not do super well at the box office. So we will get into that more, but I'm just going to be starting this ranking system. So number 5 for me is Missing Link, which is their actually most recent film that came out in 2019. So the synopsis surrounding Missing Link is there is this explorer, Sir Lionel Frost, who essentially wants to get into this high society in England, and he wants to be a part of this, club, this rich great man society of other quote unquote explorers, but they aren't really explorers, they're more poachers in, my opinion, as you can see by the paintings that are on the images and the paintings that are on the walls. They literally just pretty much go out there and kill wildlife, it seems like, for sport. So, but for some reason, Sir Lionel Frost wants to be a part of this, coveted society of great men, quote unquote. And so the only way that he can do this is if he proves that there is a Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest, specifically in Washington State. So the main head guy of the society is Lord Pigott Dunsby, which is the villain, but also I think the main villain is Stank, which is the guy that Pigott hires to go after and pretty much, make sure that Sir Lionel Frost does not find this Sasquatch. So there's kind of there's two main villains. Like I said, it's Lord Pigott Dunsby, who is the head of the society that Sir Lionel Frost wants to be a part of, and he's kind of the one that he makes a deal with, to where if he does find proof of the Sasquatch, he will be accepted into the society. And then he hires this hitman Stank to go after Sir Lionel Frost. So that is kind of the synopsis of it. Sir Lionel Frost goes and travels all the way to Washington State and does find the Sasquatch, which is later on named Susan in the film. He gives himself that name, but he's able to find Susan because he actually receives a letter from him that he actually wrote to him and shipped to him, because Susan read about him in the papers. His name is all over in the paper for not great things, but he figures out that he is this explorer. So Susan, his whole thing is that he wants to find his family because there's no other Sasquatches left in Washington. His whole thing is that he's lonely and he wants to find his family. So Sir Lionel Frost goes and finds him in Washington, and they make a deal that, Sir Lionel Frost will take him to his family of Yetis in the Himalayas. The whole thing is that Sir Lionel Frost is going to be able to, find this group of Yetis and, become even more world renowned, because he found this whole group of Yetis and the Sasquatch, and he'll get so much fame and fortune and whatever, because that's his whole thing, is that Sir Lionel Frost is very selfish, in my opinion. I know that he kind of has a character arc at the end, but I can't really like get over it. He doesn't really care about people. He doesn't care about Susan. He doesn't care about Adelina, who literally, you know, he had a thing with, and even like knew it was friends with her husband and everything. And like he literally goes and like steals from her and like breaks into her house with Susan. The thing is that I don't like the protagonist. I don't like Sir Lionel Frost. I think that some of the humor is kind of like cheap and weak. And the biggest thing for me is that Laika, I like the horror aspects of Laika. I like the, you know, like the creepy kind of scary aspects of Laika. I think that's what makes it Laika and makes it, you know, really entertaining and thrilling and kind of like on edge. And this one was just like supposed to be kind of like a more like kidsy, like fun comedy movie that was not really giving me Laika vibes at all, really. I think that it was like beautiful and the stop motion was done really well, and they also did have some CGI in this movie that I read when I was at the exhibit, but it was just not giving me Laika vibes at all, in my opinion. You know, comparing it especially to the other films that I watched right before it, it was just giving me more of like a kids movie. It was just not it for me. And then at the end of this movie, I'm sorry that I'm getting like kind of worked up, but like the end of this movie like made me so mad. I literally had to like rewind it and like show Justin it. I was like, please rewatch this ending because it literally made me so mad, where Sir Lionel Frost is literally hanging by his fingertips holding up this 650-pound Sasquatch, and Adelina, a grown woman, and Stank at one point as well, you know, a man, by his like fingertips, and then also like one-handed eventually when he's like, you know, going back and forth, like slapping around Stank or whatever. Literally is doing this one-handed. Like, I understand it's a movie and you cannot take it literally, but Laika is known for saying in the past that, like, you know, everything is put in their movies like specifically, like there is a reason why, like even like little Easter eggs and things like that, like they put them in the movie specifically. So I just could not believe that this film studio really did that without us thinking like, come on girl, like that is impossible. Like I feel like they could have switched it up and just had like Susan the Sasquatch hanging and like supporting all of them. Like that would have been more realistic to me than like this normal size regular man holding up like 1,000 pounds worth of weight one-handed, and we're just supposed to like, you know, be like comedy, like we're just gonna let it slide, like we're gonna say it is what it is. Like I just could not stand that ending, honestly. And then like them trying to, you know, make Sir Lionel Frost this like good guy when he's been like very selfish and almost allowed his accomplice at the beginning to be eaten and like die pretty much, and like did not care about him and wanted to be a part of the society of great men, which were like poo-poo to begin with. Like I just didn't like him as a character. I liked Adelina and I did like Susan for the most part, like, but Sir Lionel I just could not get over. I did not think that he did enough, in my opinion, to have this great character arc and for us to love him. You should have not wanted to be a part of that society to begin with. You were very selfish even along the journey in multiple parts, to where Adelina had to tell you like, hey, you're being rude, like you need to go, you know, clean up your act. I feel like it was more her than anything. Like I don't love how like Sir Lionel Frost got like this great ending and, you know, he was looked at as this hero almost, when I feel like Adelina was a queen and she was, you know, great throughout the film and had these like great characteristics from the beginning, but it was just not it for me. I just think that it kind of fell flat. It didn't feel like a Laika film to me, so that is why I am putting it at number 5. I apologize for my little rant there. I'm probably going to rant about all these because I really do care about every single one of these films and they do mean a lot to me. So moving on to number 4, I know that this is going to be very controversial, but I am going to put ParaNorman at number 4. I know, gasps. I know. I will explain myself. And again, these are all my opinions. Of course, you know, opinions are subjective and this is just how I feel, but after rewatching it, it just was also not hitting me in the way that I wanted to be hit in the feels. I think that it was more the beginning of the film that I did not like. I think that it did redeem itself towards, you know, the middle and even the end. I liked the arc with Aggie at the end in ParaNorman, and, you know, that relationship and the conversation that they had, and seeing Aggie at the end with her trial with the judges was absolutely heartbreaking. And I think that that really is what made the movie, but the beginning just kind of fell flat for me. Like some of the comedy, it was just not comeding for me. Like it was not really giving, like some of like the, you know, like the fart jokes and like the butt jokes and things like that. Like it was just starting off not great for me, and I think that that kind of lingered throughout the movie for me. And even some of like the mob chasing throughout, it just wasn't really like giving for me. I think that also the judges arc I did not like as well. Like I did not like that we kind of just like forgave these judges that literally murdered a child and were a part of the witch trials, and I bet you money that that was not the only person that they murdered, like, during these witch trials. Like, there was probably multiple women that they claimed to be witches and had horrible things happen to them as well. But even if that's not the case, like, I am not going to forgive these men. Like, I'm just not. Like, that is not... I cannot forgive them. It's unforgivable to me. I do not like that arc. I do not like, all because, you know, they knew what they did was bad and they forgave themselves, apologized, like, boohoo, like, you still killed an innocent child who could have had a whole life. And I think that it was okay that put this curse on you and you guys had to live and deal with that throughout the rest of your lives and all of eternity. I think that, you know, that was an okay punishment for literally killing and hanging a young innocent child. So I think that also made me mad is that I didn't like that the character arc of the judges was, like, forgiven in the character arc where they were able to release the curse and move on. I think that the fact that Aggie was even, like, labeled as a villain at all as well was kind of just, like, to me, like, she was not a villain in my opinion. Like, she should not be a villain. She was the one that was villainized and victimized, and she was the one that was literally murdered by grown men. So that's a whole other thing too. I think that the ending with Aggie and Norman was absolutely the best part. I did like Norman. I did like Courtney. There was, you know, some characters that I did like, but there was just other aspects that I'm like, I can't really get over. Like I said, the judges part, the fact that Aggie was even a villain in general, and just the beginning of it was kind of like slow, and there was just some comedy that was just like not it for me. So just overall, I'm putting it at number 4. Again, it is still a great movie. I did love that there was more like creepy aspects to it. I do love Aggie. I do love the animation and the stop motion that they did do for pretty much all of the characters. There was just some parts that fell flat for me and that I'm still just kind of angry about and like irritated about that I cannot get over. So that is why I'm putting it at number 4. Number 3 for me is going to be Boxtrolls. Again, controversial. I feel like I see Boxtrolls at the very bottom of everyone's list, but I did like this one. I feel like this did have the like a feel of it. I think that Archibald Snatcher was an amazing villain that did not have this arc at the end where, you know, he was saved and whatnot. Like, I think that that was perfect, the way that he died and exploded because of cheese. I think that that was great. Like, I like that there wasn't this, like, any of these, like, crazy huge character arcs where these like horrendous villains became, you know, like forgiven in a way. I know that even like the dad of Winnie, can't even remember his name because I don't really care about him, but I know that like he kind of came around at the end, and I know that some of the henchmen, like the Red Hat henchmen, were Mr. Gristle, Mr. Trout, and Mr. Pickles, but I can't remember which ones were like the 2 good ones that kind of were like having conflicts throughout. So that's why I was okay with them having like that little character arc at the end, because they were kind of like questioning themselves throughout the film and were just like going along with Archibald, what Archibald was saying, because he was scary. Archibald is scary. No, thank you. No, I'm good off of that. So I was okay with like them having a little bit of a character arc at the end where they decided to like, you know, not kill eggs at the very end, and then they were like just janitors and that was like their outcome. I was okay with that. Again, the dad of Winnie was kind of like poo-poo for shoe, but I was okay with him like kind of coming around at the end because, you know, he did still like kind of save Winnie at the end, but very questionable as a dad. Definitely no, like I do not love him, but that was okay. It was more like if Archibald had, you know, like if he got off scot-free and like he got out of it and like he survived and like whatnot or whatever, like I would be mad. That would make me mad because no, he's gross. So I was okay with that, and I liked the Boxtrolls throughout. I liked Winnie and Abe's relationship. I thought that that was cute. I just was really entertained. I thought that the comedy in this one was actually funny, like when he was like kissing on her hand, like licking up her hand and stuff. Like I thought that the comedy in this one was funny because there wasn't anything that was like too like crude or childish. I think that it was pretty serious throughout, and I liked how he found his dad and how his dad was like being held captive, and then they had that relationship. And I liked the Boxtrolls and like their relationship and how he wanted to save them, you know, try to tell everyone that they're not, you know, these crazy like monsters. And the Boxtrolls weren't my favorites. I don't think that they were like completely innocent, but compared to like what the society was doing, I think that they were, you know, fine. And I just liked it in general. I liked it. I liked the imagery of it. I liked the town. I liked the animation, and I kind of like liked the story overall. So I liked that ending, and I liked that Archibald died at the end, and that Winnie and Eggs kind of got their happily ever after along with the Boxtrolls. So I liked it. I know that a lot of people don't like it. I don't know why. I should probably look into why people don't like it more. I just really enjoyed it. I watched this one with Justin, and he really liked it too. And we watched ParaNorman together as well, and he didn't love ParaNorman either. So I feel like I'm fair in my assumptions because, you know, I had somebody with me to kind of back up what I was saying, especially once we had the conversation afterwards. I just had a better time watching Boxtrolls. And I think I was expecting a lot from ParaNorman, and that might have been why it fell flat. You know, and if I go back and I decide that I did like it more than I did, you know, I will let you know. But I remember watching it when I was a kid as well, and it did not stick with me. And so I was like, okay, maybe I was a kid back then. I didn't understand what I didn't understand. And I came and watched it as an adult, but I still didn't like it as an adult. I don't know what it was. I stayed true in my Boxtroll at number 3 and my ParaNorman at number 4. And let's just move on to number 2. Number 2, I am putting Kubo and the 2 Strings in the second position. I thought that this was a beautiful film. I thought it was beautiful. I loved the animation. I thought that it was amazing. I loved the creepy aspect to it with the sisters. The sisters literally scared me. When they came out on the lake and were like, Kubo, like screaming for Kubo, like I was choked. Like I was like, oh my God, this is good. This is the creepiness that I want to see from Laika. I love that part. I loved seeing Kubo with his mom and him taking care of his mom and, you know, going down to the village every day and doing his shows and everything for the villagers. I love that. I thought that Kubo was amazing. I also loved Monkey and Beetle. Beetle was a little bit questionable for me at first, I'm not gonna lie. Like I was kind of getting tired of his like whole, like I'm stupid, like I don't remember anything. Like I understand that is what his character was, but I was like kind of getting a little bit irritated with him, and I was irritated by his voice, if I'm just being honest. Like Matthew McConaughey, like I could not like get past his Matthew McConaughey voice because I've just seen Matthew McConaughey in so many films. Like my mom loves him, so it was just hard for me to get past the fact that like they did not have like Asian actors for the voices. Like, I did not love that. Like, I really think that they should have gotten Asian actors to play Asian Japanese characters. So, like, I don't know why it was so hard for them to do that. So that was kind of also, like, a knock to the whole film in general. Also, I know that you know what I'm going to say is that I did not like the Moon King's arc at the end. I think that he got off pretty scot-free, but I understand why they did it, if I'm being honest. Like, I understand why they had to do it because the Moon King was so powerful that they might have not been able to, like, completely destroy him. And I think that, you know, if Kubo had to do that and that he could just take him back to being immortal, I think that that was fair. Like, I can kind of understand why he might have had to do what he did because the Moon King was so powerful that, you know, they might have had to kind of just like lick his butt at the end because he might have been able to like somehow become immortal again, and they didn't want that happening. So the ending was not my favorite. I did want him to like, you know, kill him and crush him and destroy him like they did the sisters, but like I said, I have a little bit more sympathy for it because that might have been like what they had to do to, you know, curtail him for a while. And then since he is mortal, like hopefully he will just like eventually, you know, like die a regular death. So that wasn't my favorite ending, but like I said, it just makes more sense to me. Like I understand why they had to do what they had to do since he was like this crazy powerful like literal god. The ending wasn't my favorite. The middle and the beginning was better in my opinion. Like I said, like seeing him with him and his mom, you know, kind of building up the story and how it was silent for like the first 10 minutes or so. I literally noticed that. I noticed that there was no dialogue, and I thought to myself, nobody has spoken yet. Like, this is very profound. Like, I noticed that while watching the movie, and I was like waiting for some dialogue. So it was very noticeable, and it was a very like powerful, impactful tool that they used. I really liked the beginning. I really liked the middle with the adventure with Beetle and Monkey, even though Beetle kind of irritated me sometimes, but you know, it wasn't enough to take away from the whole adventure that they went on. I loved any time that these sisters came on the screen. These sisters were scary, they were creepy, their mask and everything, like even their speech. I think that they really hit it on the nail with like how they would speak. I thought that was really, really creepy, and I loved it, and it was giving me like Coraline vibes. I loved the sisters, not in the fact that like they're good people, but I just loved like the sisters like character and how they had them speak and animated them. So I thought that that was amazing. I love that creepy aspect to it. I think that the Moon King at the end as well, when he turned into that weird like parasite serpent thing, I thought that that was creepy as well, and I think that they animated that really well, especially because I know how hard that must have been to do that in stop motion. So I really liked Kubo. I liked the story behind it. I loved Kubo as a protagonist as well, which I think means a lot to me. I think if I like the protagonist, that'll go a long way in my opinion. I really liked Kubo as a protagonist. So I think that it was an amazing movie. I think it was beautiful. I think it was wonderful. It was gorgeous. Everything. It is going in number 2. And number 1, absolutely Miss Thing, the real deal, Miss Coraline. Coraline means so much to me. I think that Coraline might be my favorite movie just ever in general, period, point blank. That is the reason why I went to Seattle, was because my obsession with Coraline. If you do not know, I have my little Coraline figures down here. I am pulling them out unprompted because I just love Coraline so much. I'm just going to pull it out. I have these Coraline figures here with the cat. Oh my god, I love the cat so much. He is one of my favorite characters. The cat, Coraline, the other mother, and Wybie. I just love this little set here. I actually got this while I was in Seattle at their gift store. I was like literally hoping and praying that they had like some plushies or something else. Like as you can tell, I also love my plushies. I wanted to buy multiple things, but that was like all they had left since I think it is towards the end of the exhibit. I think they haven't really ordered much more merchandise, and so I just kind of got what they had left. And that was actually their very last one, so I was very thankful that I was able to get that. But without further ado, why I love Coraline, why it's an amazing film, why I think it's perfect, amazing, beautiful, gorgeous. I loved Coraline since I first saw it as a child back in 2009, and I remember watching it in the theaters, and I literally fell in love instantly. Like, I was very drawn since the first opening scene in Coraline. I was drawn in when she was making that doll in her little workshop. I was shook, and I was a child, and I like loved this film. And I remember that I was pretty scared during some of the creepier aspects with the web when she throws Miss Thing in there. I remember being scared of the other mother and those creepy aspects to it, but not enough to where it deterred me or made it so I didn't love the movie. I think that it just really intrigued me. I can sometimes have hard times watching movies if they're boring to me, and I'll kind of like get distracted, but Coraline really just like drew me in the whole time, and I was just like waiting for what was going to happen next. I think it's a beautiful film. I think every single part of it is just amazing. I really have no qualms. The only qualms I would maybe have are the differences between the movie and the book, because I also, of course, am obsessed with the book, and I also read it as a child as well, and have read it recently as an adult. I also have that right here as well. A very short book, so I have read it multiple times. I thought that the book was actually scarier, in my opinion. I remember when I read it as a kid, I wasn't super into it. I don't think I really like fully understood maybe what was happening or like fully grasping it, but as an adult, I'm like, this is pretty scary. Like, it is definitely pretty scary for a child's book. Same with the movie, looking back, I'm like, this was pretty scary. I don't really get scared of it anymore since I've seen it legitimately like 10 times. The only thing, maybe some of the qualms I would have, or some of the differences between the book and the movie, specifically in regards to the ending, I would say in the fact that like Wybie saved her from the other mother's hand. I didn't love that, because in the book she's like completely by herself, and she is doing everything by herself. She saves herself, she does everything by herself. And I think that that was a little bit more powerful and kind of more of like a feminist anthem, where this young daughter, this young woman really saves herself from this, beldam, creepy, figure, supernatural thing, whatever the hell the beldam is, her little spider, whatever. I think that the book was a little bit more powerful in that, this young girl was doing everything herself and literally saved herself from this crazy creature. In the movie, she had help from Wybie throughout. I liked Wybie as a character. I just wish that they did not have him like save her in the end. It was giving damsel in distress, which trash, don't love those narratives. So that was the only questionable part I think I had in the actual film, was that they changed up the ending to where Wybie like goes and like saves her, which crickets for that. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the good things that were in this movie. I loved how it was very like drab in the real world, how everything was like very mundane in colors. There was more like gray and dreary and drab, and the other world was like extremely colorful, beautiful, amazing, gorgeous, and I just love that difference, those subtle differences that they did in the movie that made a profound impact, where, you know, they didn't have to say anything, so you could just see the vibrancy in the other world. You could just see the differences between the two, and I think that that, you know, stood out a lot, just even subconsciously to a viewer, you know, the things that just went unsaid. And I loved, oh my god, I loved Miss Forcible and Miss Spink, is that what it was? I loved them, some of my favorites. I absolutely loved Mr. Bobinski. I literally call my cat Bobinky, named after him. I don't know why. It just has stuck with me that Mr. Bobinski, I call my cat Bobinky, just because, you know, he had his little like circus rats, circus mice, and I love Mr. Bobinski. I know that he's also like Eastern European. I have some Eastern European ancestry, so I just love that they made him blue, because he most likely was around Chernobyl in that accident. Like, just there's so many Easter eggs and hidden messages in that movie that are like, it just allows for rewatching. Like I said, I've probably watched this film like 10 times and I love it every time. There's always something new I usually find through rewatching it. I think that the other mother is so creepy. They did her so well. Even her, like, in her regular form with her little button eyes would still, I think, is creepy, but I think it's amazing. I think that the other father, they did really well. I like that he had that soft side to him, and we were able to see how the other characters that she created, you know, had feelings that were separate from her. I think that that was really creative, and I liked seeing that and seeing how, you know, YB really had different feelings, and you saw how he ended up. I think that even her parents in the real world, her real parents, I think that they depicted them perfectly. I think that they depicted, you know, neglectful parents in a perfect way that was believable. And I loved everything. I loved pretty much everything besides the ending, as we said. But I loved Coraline as a protagonist. I know that she was a little like snarky sometimes, but she was a young girl, you know. Kids have attitude, you know, they're going through things, they have hormones, whatnot. I think that she was amazing, especially reading the book. I think that she was an amazing female protagonist, and, you know, she was strong and courageous. There's so many things that I just loved about the film in general, and even some of the changes that they made from the book I did like. So Coraline is my number one. She's my thing. I love her to death, and that is my number one Laika movie, and started my love for the franchise in general, even from a young girl. I like looked up to Coraline, so I think that does a lot for me as well, just the nostalgia of it, and, you know, seeing this really strong female protagonist defeat this literal serpent spider queen. That is my ranking of my Laika films. If you want to see anything else from me, or want to see maybe another ranking once Wildwood comes out, please let me know what you want to see from me. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I appreciate it. And let me know down below how you would rank the films. Like I said, this is just my opinion. Don't come for my neck. I understand people love ParaNorman. I understand that, you know, people love Kubo, and I know that some people like Missing Link as well. So just let me know down below what you think. Thank you so much for being here with me today and for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.